What if I told you a city-state once treated newborns like gym equipment, tested, judged, and sometimes replaced? Yeah. Welcome to Sparta, where romance had a clipboard, love had a way in, and your family planning involved the government peering over your shoulder like a nosy HOA president with a spear. Here's the deal. Sparta didn't just want citizens. It wanted hoplites, walking shields with abs you could grate cheese on. From the bedroom to the battlefield, everything bent toward one goal: produce perfect warriors who would keep the machine running. And because history is both fascinating and a teeny bit horrifying, we're going to unpack how the Spartans engineered their people like a human upgrade program, firmware included, empathy not guaranteed. If macabre anthropology is your comfort food, you're in the right place. Hit subscribe, because after this you'll either want therapy or a toga. Maybe both. I post more history that leaves you saying, oh no. It's like a true crime podcast. But the suspects are entire civilizations. Let's get right into it. Number 10. The baby inspection line. Imagine your first performance review happening approximately 5 minutes after birth. Spartan infants didn't get lullabies, they got a panel. Elders examined the baby's sturdy frame, healthy cry, symmetrical everything. Congratulations. You're kept too frail, visibly ill, or just not meeting spec. The state might order exposure, leaving the child to die on a mountainside or in a ravine. Cold, calculated, and very on brand for a society convinced it could quality control its future. It wasn't every single child Sparta needed people, but the message was clear. This wasn't a family's private matter, it was the state's supply chain. Think of it as the worst onboarding ever. No welcome to the team, more like prove you won't slow the phalanx. Sounds monstrous, because it is. But it also tells you exactly what Sparta valued: physical resilience over everything. In a world where war wasn't an occasional hobby but a constant job, they treated weakness like a security risk. It's eugenics by committee, and the committee wore red cloaks. Punchline. Modern parents argue about organic baby food. Spartans argued about structural integrity. Your stroller was a shield. Your pacifier, a threat assessment. Number 9. Marriage. Brought to you by the state. If you think your relatives meddle in your love life, imagine adding legislation. Spartan marriage wasn't about two souls finding each other in a field of wildflowers. It was a logistics solution. Men typically married later, after years in barracks, because their primary relationship was with the training yard. Women, meanwhile, had a state-anointed role: produce resilient citizens. The match wasn't just romantic, it was strategic. Two robust bodies, ideally producing one robust baby, who would one day lock shields and keep the machine cogs greased with enemy tears. The wedding night was not a honeymoon brochure either. Sparta loved ritual weirdness. The bride's hair could be shorn short. She might be dressed in plain clothes, and the whole thing carried this utilitarian vibe, like the ceremony equivalent of a boot camp bunk inspection. The point wasn't dramatic kisses under the stars. It was, congratulations. Citizen units. You now have a license to continue the species in optimal condition. And because Spartans lived in the barracks for years, the young couple didn't settle into domestic bliss. Husbands often visited their wives in secrecy, like teenagers sneaking out after curfew, except the curfew was national policy. Irony alert. Nothing builds desire like telling two people they shouldn't see each other. The state basically invented forbidden romance as a fertility strategy. Eat your heart out. Shakespeare.
She is shared among us now.
Number 8.
As the
Wife
ancient
sharing.
laws allow.
Yes. Really. Here's where the marketing department would advise a gentle euphemism. But Sparta didn't do gentle. The ideology was simple. Good stock should reproduce. If a respected older man had a wife and a younger, prime-aged man had the ideal body for fatherhood, arrangements could be made. Think of it as a very awkward talent trade, like professional sports, but with fewer jerseys and more social contracts. The goal, again, wasn't pleasure. It was production. Babies weren't yours in the modern sense. They were the city's assets. Was this common? Not every household ran like a breeding co-op. And sources like Plutarch loved a juicy anecdote. But the principle existed. The state's interest trumped private jealousy. A man might lend access to his wife to improve the gene pool. Likewise, a citizen without a spouse might be granted the opportunity to father a legitimate child through another man's marriage. Everyone pretended to be cool about it because the mission's strong future soldiers was sacred. Love was optional, offspring were mandatory. To modern ears, it screams ethical red flags. And that's correct. Spartan policy treated women's bodies as civic infrastructure like aqueducts with wombs. The men got the hero narrative, the city got the babies, and the women got responsibility without full autonomy. If you squint, it's a social system that calls itself rational while delegating all the coercion to tradition. In other words, HR wrote it, but the army signed off. Number 7, strong women. On purpose. Picture your high school PE teacher. Multiply by 10, add a chorus of war songs, and give everyone short tunics. That's girls' education in Sparta. Women trained running, wrestling, javelin, even racing on purpose. Not as a sideshow, but as policy. Why? Because the state believed strong mothers make strong babies. And also because nothing terrifies your enemies like a chorus of confident women heckling them from the sidelines. Spartan wives ate better, moved more, and married later than many Greek counterparts, and the result was a population of women who could clap back with a lyric, a lunge, or a lawsuit. You didn't get the Athenian stay inside, weave, and hush. Spartan girls exercised publicly, sometimes lightly clothed, which horrified other Greeks, but made perfect sense locally if you're building a human factory certified for high-impact births. You invest in your production line. The city wrapped female bodies in civic mythology, mothers of warriors, keepers of lineages, auditors of male courage. If a man came home without a shield, a Spartan woman didn't swoon, she asked pointed questions about his spine. But it wasn't feminist paradise. Training didn't equal full autonomy. It was instrumental you were strong so the city could be stronger. Your womb had a flag on it. The contradiction is deliciously uncomfortable. Women had unusual latitude in property and speech compared to elsewhere. Yet that space existed because the war machine required it. Sarcastic, moral Sparta invented leaning in, except the meeting was labor and the KPI was birth weight. Number 6, Bachelor Penalties. Imagine the entire town bullying you for not putting a ring on it. In Sparta, staying single past your sell-by date wasn't just awkward, it was punishable. Fines, public mockery, ritual-shaming bachelors could be made to parade around in the cold, stripped of dignity and sometimes of clothing, while married men laughed like a live studio audience from antiquity. The logic? If your private choices weakened public supply of future hoplites, your private choices weren't private. There were festivals where unmarried men took the L in front of everyone. Think of it as an annual review where HR lists your underperformance in making more Spartans. The psychological warfare is exquisite. You're a citizen, supposedly the elite of Greece, and yet your community is basically your mother, your aunties, and your commanding officer all rolled into one, screaming, "Go forth and multiply." Unless you think romance might rescue you, remember that matches were evaluated like horse breeding height, lineage, vigor, Love poems optional, pelvic metrics mandatory. Want the punchline? Today's dating apps punish you with ads. Sparta punished you with the weather, civic penalties, and a chorus of married dudes doing ancient Greek ring checks. Basically, cuffing season was enforced by law. Number 5. Barracks Before Babies. Here's an anti-rom-com plot boy meets girl. Boy marries girl. Boy promptly goes back to live with 30 dudes in a military dining hall for another decade. That's the agōgē system. Spartan men were bonded to their mess halls and age cohorts, not to cozy domestic life. You proud new husband snuck out at night to see your wife in secret, like a teen climbing out a window, except the window was the state and the state had spears. This enforced distance was not a bug, it was the fertility feature. The city believed intensity beats routine. Short, clandestine visits were supposed to inflame desire and, theoretically, produce more vigorous offspring. It's the biology equivalent of high-intensity interval training brief, high-effort sessions with maximum focus, no cuddly cool-down. Domesticity softened men, so the system vacuum-sealed your feelings and stored them on the top shelf until you turned 30. Also, the barracks lifestyle let the state watch the men discipline. Diet, daily schedule like a human terrarium. Your personal timeline bent to the calendar of combat. Want to raise a toddler? Cute. First, raise your shield. The irony is thick enough to spread on barley bread. Sparta micromanaged intimacy to mass-produce independence. Or, in modern terms, work-life balance meant life could visit on weekends. Number 4. Bride capture ritual. File this under romance, but make it felony adjacent. Some sources describe a Spartan wedding night where the bride was ritually captured. Translation: her hair was cut short, she wore men's clothing, and the groom would sneak in, scoop her up, and how shall we say, commence the state-approved procreation plan. It wasn't random kidnapping, it was theater. A pageant about transforming a maiden into a citizen manufacturer, wrapped in cosplay that made other Greeks write dramatic Yelp reviews about barbaric tastes. Why the costume change? Sparta loved symbolism, and this one screamed transition. The bride's new look blurred lines, part boyish, part bridal, because the city wanted unity, not frilly gender scripts. The husband didn't move in, of course. That would be sentimental. He returned to the barracks like a moth to a fluorescent light, while she remained in her household. Now, an officially sanctioned fertility engine. Their rendezvous, secret, strategic, and apparently thrilling because forbidden fruit is a known superfood. Beneath the ritual is a very modern idea, dressed in bronze control, the vibes to control the outcomes. If you engineer the ceremony, you engineer the psychology less cozy nesting, more adrenaline and novelty, which Sparta believed translated into healthier offspring. Think of it like turning your wedding into a team-building exercise with mandatory trust falls and absolutely no cake. Punchline: it's the only bridal capture where the real hostage was work-life balance. Number 3. No dowries. No makeup. Imagine a dating culture where you can't hide behind contouring, cash gifts, or curated Instagram captions. Sparta banned dowries and discouraged cosmetics. The slogan might as well have been, "Show us the chassis." Stripping away financial bargaining and beauty enhancements forced the marketplace of marriage to run on the raw materials, health, lineage, temperament. Less family investors, more factory specs. That sounds harsh, and it was. But removing dowries also cut the power of rich dads to buy prestige sons-in-law. In a backhanded way, it leveled the field. You couldn't import status. You had to be the status clean diet, hard training, good bones, and a family with no suspicious gaps in the athletic record. The city prized transparency like a gym with glass walls. If the goal is kids who can carry a shield and your entire political future, then powdered cheeks and a bribe bag aren't helpful KPIs. For women, it was a double-edged spear. The rule burned the idea of women as bargaining chips, but it also recast them as measurable assets. Your face wasn't a canvas, it was a diagnostic. Your gait, your breath, your laugh after a sprint public data for civic investors. The joke writes itself. Spartan beauty tips: sleep well, throw a javelin, and try not to die. Lipstick is for the enemy's blood. Number 2, pregnancy as a public program. If modern prenatal advice feels intense, ancient Sparta is about to turn your Fitbit into a government ankle monitor. Spartan ideology treated pregnancy like a 9-month national project. Expectant mothers were encouraged to exercise, eat simply, and stay outdoors, sun, fresh air, and cardio. Because apparently the fetus is training for a 5K at birth. The belief was clear, robust mothers forge robust infants. Cue group workouts that double as parades of civic optimism. The prenatal vibe bled into early childhood. Babies were bathed in wine. Yes. Wine because someone decided a little sting would test strength and ward off weakness. Infants slept on hard boards to grow straight, while mothers were told not to coddle. The ancient Greek equivalent of no helicopter parenting. Then came the agōgē. At around 7, boys swept into the training matrix like little recruits. Girls kept training in parallel. Your childhood wasn't find yourself. It was prove you fit. Was any of this science? Not in the modern sense. It was ritual wrapped around observation, coded in bravado. Still, bits of it echo today. Strength training for pregnant women, outdoor play, resilient kids. Difference is, modern advice is meant to empower families. Spartan advice was meant to empower the state. Subtle distinction, like the one between a hug and a suplex. Punchline: your birth plan was less a playlist and more a military briefing.
Your bloodline belongs to the city.
Number 1, the city owns your bloodline.
What can we do?
Here's the core truth beating under the bronze in Sparta. Reproduction wasn't private, it was policy. Bloodlines belonged to the city, not to romance. Marriages were arranged for output. Bodies were regimented for consistency. Even paternity and household loyalty could be flexible if it made a stronger baby for the phalanx. Love stories existed. People are people, but official doctrine treated them like sweet side quests while the main campaign marched on. Mothers carried a special honor code, the famous line with your shield, or on it wasn't just battlefield smack talk, it was a civic expectation that your sons were public property designed to return in victory or not at all. Dying in childbirth or in battle earned similar praise, because both acts fed the state one with new life, one with defended territory. The economy here is brutal, and poetic wombs and war shared a ledger. So, what's the lesson? Besides, never let your municipal council design your dating app if history teaches anything, it's that when power fetishizes perfection, regular humanity gets sanded off. Our modern world still flirts with that algorithmic partners, genetic fantasies, performance parenting. Sparta is the cautionary tale in a crimson cloak. Optimize people too hard, and you don't get utopia. You get a very fit, very frightened machine that calls itself a society. If this made you shiver and smirk in equal measure, you're my kind of historian. Maybe the moral is be strong. Sure, but be kind on purpose. Because a world that can deadlift its enemies and still hold a baby gently, that's an upgrade. Even Sparta couldn't code.